We're very happy to welcome all of you today to our first product update webinar. We've decided to start this series of product update webinars to get you up to speed about all the latest developments. Here at Transkribus, there are a lot of new developments that we are happy to present today, and there will be also more developments for future product update webinars. We will try to do them every 3 months, so the next update webinar will be in May, where we will present some of the things that we will sneak peek today as well. So there's already some very exciting things that we also plan to work on. But what's the roadmap for today's webinar? A very brief overview at the beginning from myself. Then we will have a look at some improved workflows in Transkribus. We will also look at the new and improved search, how you can search virtually everything in Transkribus. We will have a look at models, how you can search models, how models have been redesigned in Transkribus, about the editor. One central piece here at Transkribus is the editor and how you can edit pages. We've also added some new functionality there. And as said, we will have also an outlook about upcoming changes to Transkribus and a sneak peek some of those new changes. And at the end, we also have time for questions and feedback. If you have any, you can already add them in the meantime in the chat. We will always also try to answer questions directly during the webinar. So if they fit to the slides and the things we look at in the software, we can also try to answer them directly during the webinar. But without further ado, let's have a look at who's here with me today. It's Helene from our communications team. She joined me today. I am Flo. I'm part of the board of directors here at Transkribus and am leading the product development of Transkribus. As many of you might know or might also not know, Transkribus has come a long way. Starting back in 2015, it was still a research project led by the University of Innsbruck and many other universities in Europe, which was then eventually in 2020, or better 2019, turned into a cooperative with the sole purpose of further developing Transkribus. And here we are today. We are trying to bring Transkribus to as many users as possible with the goal of providing the best tools for historical research. And we hope that we can proudly say that we are amongst the largest platforms to being able to provide this, that more of 300,000 users are using Transkribus. Yeah, not every single day, but there's several thousand users that use Transkribus every single day to unlock historical sources. We're really happy about that. It is also a balancing act of different interests. So there's users that have very sophisticated and elaborate workflows, and there's users that have more of a simple workflow. Let's say recognizing a grandma's diary is maybe a simpler workflow than working on an extensive corpus and doing historical research based on that data. But we're really happy that Transkribus is able to fulfill the needs of many of these users worldwide, and we try to continue this journey by developing Transkribus as a cooperative, really in a shared and cooperative way, and offering a tool to unlock basically the history of mankind. But now let's really have a look at what has changed. And now I'm already jumping out from the slides into the software to give you an overview of those things that have changed. Let's start with some more central concepts that we are introducing now, which are namely document management features. I'm here at the homepage of my Transkribus account and will now jump into a collection. Once you are in a collection, you might recognize that things up here have changed, and that is basically a redesign that we have undertaken now. We focused on making document management and especially management of larger document holdings very easy. And for that, we have redesigned the action bar up here. So you can see that here on the left side, there's now batch actions, where you can basically operate different actions on a number of documents, as you might just select them and then execute these actions. I will come to which actions there are and some new actions in a second. And another new concept that we've introduced, what we think is a concept that you might know from many other software tools, which is filtering and sorting. Once you work with larger amounts of documents, you might also want to filter your documents. To do so, we have a very simple user interface now that you can filter for different types of data. It still needs to be a little bit cleaned up, so this list is a little bit long. We're still fixing all of these things, but here you can then filter your documents based on different metadata that you have basically annotated to your document. And also sorting, so you can now easily say, I want to sort it based on the newest or the oldest, or also the name. And we will gradually introduce more sorting options and more filtering options. Plus, we've also redesigned the way how you switch to the list view. And once you work with larger amounts of data, it might be very convenient to switch to the list view and display additional information. For that, you also have the possibility to now display or hide different columns. So let's say I don't need the uploader, I'm the uploader. So let's just hide that column. It's just important for me to see the name and the date created, and that's it. Like that, you can customize the experience for Transkribus to your use case and needs. That being said, let's maybe switch to the cards view. That makes it a little bit more visual. Let's come to one of the new batch actions that we've introduced just recently. It's still on the beta, as most of the things that I'm showing today, and my colleague Helene will also be showing later on, they are still on our beta instance or beta.transkribus.org, but we will release them with a major release next Wednesday. So we are currently preparing for moving most of these things that are currently easy to test out on beta to our app version. And one of these things we're very excited about is labels, which is another way of managing your documents and annotating them with additional information to then later on use them. Let's say, for instance, you want to annotate all handwritten documents. I have already done that, but I can show you all handwritten documents. Let's say I have 3 handwritten documents and 3 printed ones in my example here, and I want to annotate them with a certain label. You can see they already have some labels because I have applied them, but you could also add just AR forms or newspapers, or I have done a certain workflow steps. Yeah, for now, it's a fixed list of labels. We will gradually also introduce more functionality to those labels, but we want to start a little bit more conservative with a fixed list so that we first prove that the concept works. We've tried to as many things that you might want to label your documents with, but there will certainly be some labels that you miss. We're also happy to hear about them. So if you have feedback, feel free to share that. But to come back, once you have applied these labels, then you can easily deselect all documents and say, okay, now I'm using filters, and that's where filters come in quite handy. You can say, okay, now I want to only work with printed documents, and maybe only printed documents that are a newspaper. You've now filtered for those 2 metadata. You see I filter for printed newspapers, and there's only 2 documents remaining. And now I can continue working with them. I might want to export them. I might want to move them to another collection, merge them with some other documents. So this will basically give you a more streamlined way of organizing the work and different projects that you're doing with Transkribus, and organize your workflows. And then obviously you can just remove all filters, and we'll come back to the overview with all documents that are currently in this collection. Let me just have a look. These are some of the changes we've added with the new batch actions, and the general concept of filtering and sorting. You will find that throughout the entire labels will then also be accessible via the API, but the API in general, as there was one question in the chat, the API in general will be something that we will dedicate more time to in the next quarter, as we really want to provide a production-ready API, which is well documented. At the moment, labels are not editable via the API, but we will also work on that. Yeah, let's come back to actions and filtering. So let's say I'm going into a document. You will then also see filters here. You can have it here. There's already a lot more filters when you are in a document, and can search for different metadata that is then relevant for your work for instance, the model that you've used. I'm not even sure if I know the model that was used. Let's quickly have a look. I'm not sure about this one, but you will then be able, that's still work in progress, to see the model. Okay, there was no model used, but we will then be able to see what models were used for recognizing a certain document. And then you can just filter for this. So filters are a more general concept that we've now introduced to all of this data that you can manage in Transkribus. One very exciting other feature is that many of you have waited a long time for is a better upload. It's good to have many exciting features in Transkribus, but it's not very good if you're not even able to upload your data. And for that, we've now really redesigned the upload and have introduced a new upload functionality that will be more reliable, will be able to handle more data. So up to, let's say, 10 to 20,000 images you will be able to handle depending on your internet speed and your local machine. You can quite easily handle large amounts of data that you can introduce or upload with the new upload. Plus, it's a little bit hidden, so we might still need to improve the UI a little, but you can also now drag and drop folders. So I can just show you, I'm just dragging 2 folders now into the upload. And what it will do is basically create 1 document per folder. So you see also the uploading process, so it's quite fast. I've now uploaded 15 files quite quickly. Once the upload is done, I can start creating document. And once the document creation is done, it will show up in my collection just as before. But quite easily, I've created 2 documents and can basically mirror the folders that I have on my local machine also as documents in Transkribus. So if we refresh now, the document should be here. You see there's document 2 and document 1. I've just very easily created them with the new upload now. And last, new improved workflow that I'm quickly going through is the new recognition process. We've had a very extensive way of showing you a lot of data once you started the recognition before. And now we've redesigned that so that you can more easily start a recognition job in Transkribus. As you might remember, before it was a full screen view where you could see all models with all filters and a model card and a lot of information. We've seen that most of the users rarely use more than 10 models, and they used most of the models the same time. For that, we've introduced favoriting models. You can just set models to favorite, and then your favorite models will show up at the top of the recognition dialog. And then you can basically just select that model you want to use. Let's say I'm using the German Genius and can immediately start the text recognition or any other recognition type like field recognition, table recognition, or layout recognition. We will also have a look at models now with Helene, and that's already, I think, the point where we can hand over. So my colleague Helene can take over to show you some more and exciting improvements when it comes to searching.
Exactly. Let's see, I think screen sharing works. Yes. So we have also some new updates and improvements when it comes to search and organization. First, we have worked on the search option itself. So we worked on how searching is executed. And previously, if you remember, you had 1 search bar where you had to choose what you look for. So you had to already choose if you're looking for collections or if you're looking for a document or full text search. And now we have changed that to 1 search bar where you can enter a search term and all the options will be displayed immediately. So basically, you have the search option to enter the name or document a name that you're looking for. And then, as you can see on the screen, you immediately see all the collections that you have that include this name. You have the documents as well as full text search. And then you can still select if you want to only have the full text results displayed or only the collection results displayed. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Then what we have also improved are the collection settings. So we designed the collection settings. How the settings are managed is different here. So we basically have given it its own separate page where you have an overview of the collection title, the description, the ID. And this is also the place where you can organize and manage members. So the user settings that are invited, for example, to a collection. And that also brings me to the next point, the invitation of users or adding new users to a collection. So previously you had to add an email address and search for a user, and they had to be already a Transkribus user with an email address that has been entered. Now you can simply add an email address and invite users. So they don't have to be a Transkribus user already, but they get still an email and they will have to set up an account, but they don't have to already have an account. So this way it's easier to invite new users and add new users to your account. Something that we will also be working on, but we haven't been working on yet, but it will come as well, is that we're working on an invite link itself that is shareable. But for now, we will have this way of adding new users. So the collection settings redesign, as well as the new invitation feature, they're not yet on beta. What is on beta, however, is the new search options, and I can show those to you right now. Let's go into the web app. And as you can see, we now have a search bar here on top of the landing page. And I can simply open it and search, for example, let's look for newspapers and search. And I can see, okay, we have 3 results in total. Let's maybe just enter newspaper and we'll get more results. Yes, here we go. So we have a total of 17 results, and we can see immediately, okay, we have 6 documents that includes newspaper as a term and 11 full text results. And we can also see that here if we scroll down a bit. And if you want all the results displayed, we can either click on see all here or just click on top on document and I have only the document results, or I click on full text and I have only the full text results. So this way we hope it's easier to search for either documents that include the term that you're looking for, collections, and you don't have to previously decide what type of document or collection, what type of material you're looking for.
Maybe a very short comment. You can also click in the secondary navbar on search if you really want to use the extended full text search. So there we have a more extended search bar where you will have all full text results, also with snippets. So like this, you can really do full text search. Yeah, exactly. Here are the 11 results again, but here you also see some snippets to maybe visually also being able to tell where the result is that is relevant to you. Exactly.
Perfect. Are there any questions so far? Let me see. Is this search only in your collection or other public collections?
That's a feature that we will still add. So if you're on the homepage, it will search all collections that you have access to. So basically your collections and other collections that are shared with you. In general, all collections are private by design, so there is no public collection that you can search. It is a requested feature that we might introduce public collections, but at the moment there is no such thing as a public collection, but there are collections that can be shared with you, and then you will be able to search them.
All right, and then let's move on. A few things that we've also changed is in the models workspace. Let's maybe stay in the web app and then we can do a short recap after with the slides. So clicking on models, you already know that clicking on models opens the models workspace, but the design here has also changed a bit. So you can see here that we have improved and changed the layout a little bit, and also the way that filtering and sorting works. We have, for example, here the filter for the type of model. The way this is structured is similar to the overlay and the slide over that Flo showed today as well. And then we can also sort again for models and filter for models. When it comes to filters, we will probably add more filter for more types of data, but first we'll want to see what types of filter are actually helpful and useful for you as the user. but this is also something that we'll be working on. You can, again, have an overview here of your favorite models, public models, and your private models, or models that have been shared with you. And something that is also new is if you open a model, for example, let's say the German giant, and we go on model description, we now have a quick text recognition feature in the model description. So here, let me just show that real quickly. I can drag and drop a file, and the quick text recognition will run automatically. And what you will see here is just the result of the model that you're looking at and at the description that you're looking at. And what this does is it helps you to figure out if the model works for the type of material that you're working with. So if you're looking at the model description, you look at the CR and what it's trained on, the training size, and you're like, okay, this model could fit for the type of material that we're working on. Okay, I think we found a bug here. Let's maybe
I guess the job failed.
retry the job. Let's
Yeah.
retry this one maybe, because is always when you want to show something. Let's try it again.
We're cool, we promise.
Let's see. Yeah. But yes, you can see if the results, if you're happy with the result, or if you want to maybe try a different model. And what you can also do is, as you can see here, you can immediately open it in the editor and edit the image, edit the document, or upload another image and see if it works maybe with a different material. Now let's see if the recognition works now. Nope, job failed again, apparently. All right, then let's maybe
need to check it then.
look at the job. It's finished. Interesting. But it happened before as well. It's probably a bug in beta, but good that we know now. Then we can fix it
I also think
before.
Yeah. We'll have a look later on.
It
It's
goes live.
interesting.
Yeah. It happened to me when I prepared this, that for the first time around, the transcription failed, the recognition failed, and the second time around it works. That's why I thought, let's try it again. But maybe it's a bug. Good to know. All right, so basically here you can test the models. And what we also have new is the data lab, the training lab. So this is basically an overview of all your models, of your models trainings, and where you can manage your models. Here you can see the model trainings that are finished, model trainings that are canceled, and you also have some information about the models that you trained. What we will also add in the future is a link so that if you click on a link, you get immediately taken and you can immediately access the model that you have trained. So this will provide you a better overview of the models, of the model training that you will do within Transkribus. Let's go back into the slide and maybe do a quick recap. So the models are the heart and the core of Transkribus. And again, so what we've redesigned is the model space with new filters, new sorting. Then we have the quick text recognition on the model description pages themselves. And we have the training lab. What we've also been working on is the editor. Especially manual editing and manual work should be smooth and should not be a hassle, but we want to make it even easier for you, which is why we've worked on some improvements there. The first thing that we've changed is the tags and the structural tagging, how the structural tagging looks. So a few of the UI elements. We've changed the structural tags from being inside of the region to being outside of the region, so it doesn't cover any text, similar to the line numbering. So it's not outside, so it's not covering any text, and you can still read very well what's on the image in your editor. And you can now also see the structural tags displayed in the text editor. As you can see in the image on the right, it is right next to the actual region. You can see the name of the tag that has been added to the specific region. What we also have added is auto-saving. So sometimes when you're editing something and you maybe accidentally click F5 and you reload the page and you've worked really hard on some corrections, but the corrections are now lost. Hopefully this will not happen anymore, but unsaved changes are stored locally and can be recovered. I can show it to you later as well, how that works and what it looks like and how you can recover those changes. And something that we have now included are comparing versions in version history. So if you, for example, similarly to when you're maybe looking at a model and you're thinking, is this model working for my material? Sometimes you're in the editor itself and you have tried out a model, but maybe you want to try a different model with the material, or you want to try the German giant, but then you want to try maybe a supermodel, the text titan, and you want to also compare the two results. And this is what you can do with this option of comparing versions in the version history. So you can see what the different outcome is of different models, the different results, and you can immediately see where the changes are. And you can also have the option of the colored indications of the differences. And you have also the numbers of differences detected displayed in the top right corner. So this way we hope to give you a better idea of what models really work best with your material. And another thing that has also been mentioned a lot of times was that the layout reordering hasn't been that well yet in the web app. And so we've taken another look at that. This is something that is also not yet on beta, but will be coming to beta. And here you can order lines or can reorder layout based, for example, on rows or based on columns. So if you have, for example, a document that has columns and you want the lines displayed not by row, but by columns, you can simply select to reorder the lines column-based, and that should help organize and reorder the layout better. We can have now a look at what these changes look like in the platform itself. Let's move to a document. Let's go on this page that I've had a look at. So the first thing that we changed were the structural tags. We have here, it's a little bit small, but you can see here that the structural tag is outside of the region. And if we add a new one here as well, this is marginalia, you can see we have to change the size of the structural tags, but you can see that the structural tag is outside of the region, and it also appeared here in the text editor. Then if we want to try the auto-saving, let's do some changes in the text. Maybe we just quickly delete this as well. And we can see here that we have an unsafe change. Do we want to change something as well? Let's just maybe add a word here just to show you how it works. Now we have two unsafe changes. Let's reload the page. And we can see changes from last session were recovered. And if we click on the version history, we can also see here that we have 3 unsafe changes. And now I can just click on save. And all the changes are saved and stored within Transkribus. So the changes previously, the unsafe changes are stored locally. But as soon as you save it, it's saved in the web app itself. Then let me show you how you can compare versions. We'll stay in the version history. And what you'll do is select another version a bit further down, click on the 3 dots here, and then select compare with current version. And now you can see immediately that everything that was changed and edited from the previous version is highlighted in green and red. You can also switch the colors depending on which is the more correct version. And you see here also the differences that have been detected. If you want to restore another version that you feel like was more correct or did fit better, you can just click on restore this version and we're back at the previous version. Do we have questions so far? Let me quickly look at the chat. Flo, anything that we can address in the editor?
No, I think nothing not needed.
All right. I think then we're already at the Outlook and I can hand over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Good. Then let's have a look what's coming soon, or a little bit later than soon, because soon is next week, and those things that you have seen now, they will come soon. So they are already developed to a large extent, but we also have plans for the future, of course, and new tools that we will and functionality that we will introduce. One of the most central ideas here is datasets that we are currently already working on. It's a little bit of a larger feature that we will introduce, but we see that this will very well fit into the Transkribus ecosystem to give you the opportunity to train models in a more curated way. We think that this bridges the gap between operatively working with data in Transkribus and training models. What data sets basically will be is a way of saving your data to a curated data set with licenses and metadata attached. So with these data sets, you can very easily create data that is then prepared for model training. You can merge data sets. You can then share data sets publicly or privately, so that others can also access the same data and maybe train models with your data as you have been openly sharing it potentially on Transkribus. So data sets is a new space in Transkribus that we will be introducing in the next months that should give you the opportunity to training models and also sharing data in a curated way, also with licensing options that you can decide what license will apply to your data basically. You're the data owner. We will also work on notifications. So right now, Transkribus is somewhat silent. Once you are doing larger operations like longer recognition jobs, you might want to get notified or about the training. And for that, we are introducing notifications so that you can get notified. Also about comments, another feature that we will introduce. So commenting in the editor, that you can comment on a certain page and then others could get notified about that comment and answer your comment. Like if there is an uncertainty about transcribing a certain word, or if there is something that needs to be checked, then you could just tag your colleagues in a comment on the page and they get notified and can check it out. So notifications is basically a means of internally communicating from users within Transkribus, but also from us to you if a job has finished or an upload has completed, your download has finished, etc. We will also introduce page labels like you've seen for documents. Similarly, we will also introduce this for pages, as you might have different workflows that apply to your pages. And with page labels, we have had a lot of requests. There's the status that you can set now is a little bit restrictive, as you only have 5 different statuses, and you might have different needs when it comes to working in your projects. And with labels, we hope to give you the opportunity to have more elaborate workflows where you can really set different labels based on a step that has been executed, or about a material shape that you have identified, or about another action that needs to be taken on this specific page. And then we have some more things that are planned, like the improved job system, where we will also introduce new job types like named entity recognition, with hopefully more stable jobs and new engines that can then be easily integrated for you to have more powerful engines in Transkribus. We're also training new models at the moment, so new supermodels are on the horizon, and you might want to look out for them. And we also are working on more customization of the home appearance so that you can really define what you might expect on the homepage once you start Transkribus. There are different ways to enter Transkribus, and we think that depending on your usage scenario, you might also want to have them. Now let's quickly wrap it up, come to a conclusion, and then I think there's some questions popping up. We can come to the questions in the chat. As you have already read in the chat maybe, and we've also mentioned it, most of these things that you've seen today, they're already available on beta. So it's your turn to try them out now, give us feedback. And then next week on Wednesday, we will try to have a major release. So most of those things will then also move to the app version of Transkribus. And we hope that you enjoy these changes then. To quickly reiterate, what our mission is. As said at the beginning, our mission is really to provide the best tools for making historical data accessible. So we build the tools and you work with the data. That's basically the deal that the community has with Transkribus, and Transkribus is here for that. Run by the cooperative, as said, which is backed basically by more than 200 public and private organizations and also individuals that have decided to join this cooperative, which by our statutes is for profit, but the profit is 100% reinvested. So there is no shareholder payout. So basically, we are really here to serve one single purpose, which is developing Transkribus and further developing this tool for historical research, basically for unlocking history. As always, try to consult the help center if you have any questions. That is very often the quickest way of getting an answer, but we are also always very happy to get your tickets and reply to them with some help. You might also want to look out for some beginner webinars. We will have one in Pacific time on March 13th, and another one in Central European time on the 9th of April. So to get also you or your colleagues on board, and if you're just starting out to work with Transkribus, you might want to join them, where we will have some basic walkthroughs, the most important use cases that you might want to understand. And yeah, we would like to see you there if you have questions. And now let's come to the questions and the feedback. So I've seen there was quite some movements in the chat. I don't know, Helene, if you were able to already put those a little bit into order, or if you have some immediate questions that we can have a look at.
There are a bunch of questions, and I haven't gotten a chance to go over all of them. There were a few questions about named entity recognition. Also, okay, let's go through it maybe one by one.
Yeah. So let's start at the top. I think you've answered some, but there was still, let me see, one about identification of different writing hands. At the moment, there are no concrete plans for that, because we think more models are further developed, the better they get of recognizing different hands. So we don't see that much need at the moment to identifying basically writers based on their handwriting. But we have seen and have discussed it previously with some colleagues. So there is certainly some interest in it, but we don't see a very broad interest at the moment in identifying different writing hands. But one functionality that we are also introducing that might be able to account for that is classifiers, which is another engine that might then also be part of the new job system, where you can basically use labels that you've applied to pages or documents. And based on those labels, you can train a model that will label more data based on that label. So you could then, let's say, label page A with writer A and page B with writer B, and do that a couple of hundred times, train a model, and then the model might be able to recognize these handwritings, but a very automated way of writer identification that's not on the roadmap. And then there was a question regarding tags. Tag search will be integrated soon. There's also, today we've presented the major building blocks for the next weeks, but there's also others like tag search, revising tag values. So I guess this points towards changing one tag value for multiple pages. That's also currently in development. We're currently looking into a solution for batch tagging, for instance. So if there's a name, let's say, let's stick with my name. Let's say there's the name Florian, and you want to tag that name in all of the pages of a certain document, then you can just select that name and then tag all of the instances of this specific string with the tag person, for instance. And changing that would then obviously be part of the concept. But in general, named entity recognition, and that's some of the next questions to answer that, is that doing in an AI-based way. The other way would obviously be to really look for every string that exactly matches the 7 letters of Florian. I think it's 7. But with named entity recognition, what you can do is train a model to recognize any entity that might be a name. Named entity models basically learn to recognize these entities as being a name from the concept. So they are language-based models that learn to recognize, let's say, Isabella. So it has learned that Helene and Florian are names, and Isabella in the context of the other words might seem also like a name, and then it tags Isabella as a name as well. And with named entity recognition, I said that will be one of the first new engines that we'll be introducing in Q2. So in the next quarter, we will also have this extended functionality of tagging text in Transkribus. What are some more specific questions? I'm not exactly sure about the question about existing NER workflows, so I think we would need to more elaborately talk about this question. If there is more context, then I'm happy to look at it. Then there was a question also further above about a local version of Transkribus. That is still a plan also for the version as you can see it in the web now and use it in the web now. And there will be a local version. I would not expect it this year though, because the development of such a local application is quite resource intensive, and we really need to make sure that this works. I would rather expect it for next year, but it will then be a very similar experience as you have it in the web application now. But yeah, modern technologies, it's basically not that big, but still you need, as I said, to account for many things, that big of an undertaking to move a web application to a local application. But here we can really understand that you might want to work on a train or without internet connection and still being able to manipulate, annotate, edit documents that you have at hand. And for that, you need a local version like the desktop client that is available at the moment from project time still. Then searching for regular expressions, that ties a little bit into that tagging that I've mentioned before. So that's also something we're currently looking into. Tools to improve the numerous pictures of written text. That's certainly a more tricky one, or let's say not tricky, but something that we are not actively looking into at the moment. So improving image quality, but it's good to get that feedback. Yeah, so the change all, I think that ties into search and replace, or basically tagging all of them. But as said, that's very much related to searching for a certain string, tagging that or changing that, that will then be part of it. But you might need to consider that currently how data is set up in Transkribus, there might sometimes not be a way back. We store it as a different version, but if then someone else stores that version again, then you will have a hard time to have merge conflicts because there are different branches of the data that develop. So search and replace could be a little bit more tricky when it comes to actual work. Good. Then are there any other questions that is still missing? Yeah, NER would likely require a model that knows the language. Yeah, I've also just answered that. But as always, here is where sometimes our expertise also comes to an end, is we are really curious about what you as a community do with these engines. We've seen that with field models, for instance, which is, I would consider a great success because there's really so many different applications to what you can use a field model for that we would not have been able to think about these named entity recognition. I assume that we will see similar developments, that once you have the tool at hand, yeah, maybe we did not think about using a screwdriver to open a can, but you can certainly do, and that's, I also think that's a one way of how innovation is actually fostered by providing the tools, and then it's up to the wisdom of the crowds to make the best out of them. And then there's a question about the table. Yeah, the table layout editor, that's certainly also something where we might need to improve. In general, I must say that the layout editor is certainly one of the parts of Transkribus that's the most complex, because there are so many degrees of freedom what you can do with layout, that there's always some case that you fix for a certain use case, and by fixing that you might ruin another one. Yeah, this functionality certainly is relevant as well, but yeah, we will take it certainly into consideration. And as always, really try to just share this feedback also directly with us as a ticket or an email or any other channel that you might think of, because we really try to then add off all of this feedback together and put it into our backlog and try to prioritize it and put it into the development. Page XML export, that's something that is still missing, like you could do it in the desktop client at the moment. What is a little bit more tricky is if the schema is actually accepted by our backend, because page XML, you can virtually do many things with page XML, and then introducing or uploading page XML with that is a little bit trickier. But as said, API is a focus of Q2. Once we have a more robust API, then you might really be able to set up your workflows with that API, and there will be certainly some validation if the XML you are trying to upload is valid or not. Okay, there is one question that is not relevant anymore. There's a question about having trouble with selecting baselines. As far as I know, it's not a known issue. So if it is, please report it with the given channels, and then we can have a look at it. The new tagging feature of regions exported like TEI. I need to be honest, I don't know it by heart, how it will be exported in TEI, but you can certainly, and that's the standard format for exporting, export it as page XML and then use it from there. But about TEI, I'm unsure.
There was one question about, sorry.
Yeah,
about
just
the
go ahead.
version
I'm just
history.
trying to be quick. So sorry for everyone that we're overrunning, and everybody who's still sticking with us. Thanks a lot. But now is the time to ask questions, and we try to efficiently go through them.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions, but we'll do our best. There was one about the version history, and someone said that they want to compare not the current version with the old version, but maybe version 5 to version 2 in the list.
Yeah,
and if
that was one of
become
the
possible.
caveats that we have encountered. You can already do, but it's a little bit more tricky. You would need to restore it first. Let's say here I have 3 versions. I've in the meantime just tried out if models work in first place. So there's really just a bug with the quick text recognition as we've seen it before. But you would need to restore the version and then compare the versions. So now this is the latest, and then you can compare the version with the current one. Okay, there is no difference because that's maybe a bug. The other version is empty. But the quickest way is just to restore that version you want to compare it and take it from there. But we might also see how we can improve that. Let's see where I was at. Yeah, you can export table to CS4. Not JSON, but you can still export it as an Excel file at the moment. So you can have an Excel export from the table output. That's already possible in the export. So you can just go to export and then select the spreadsheet export, and then you can select the table export for your data in tabular form. Then there's one question from Nicola. There is a way, what you can do is, let me quickly show you. Let's just very quickly draw a table, split it into, let's say, 4 cells. And now you think that you cannot write into it. What you need to do is draw a baseline into it. Once there is a baseline, you will be able to write into it. So what's missing is basically the baseline. And there's one question, I'm not sure, about recognizing text errors. Not super sure about that question, if I understand it correctly. I think we are mainly through. Have I skipped anything? So you can just type it in. If not, I would say that we're running already a little bit, but still, it's great that so many still sticking with us. I'm not sure about the last question about the signs. So I guess which characters. It's also something that will be released with the new models. It's not there yet, but basically, once you are looking at the model, then you will see in the description. I think it's not there on beta yet. Where you will see also all the characters that went into a model. And basically, once you train a model, every character that is part of the data that went into the model, so the pages, the XMLs, will then also be part of the model character set. But yeah, I would say that we went through most of the questions that there were. As always, we're really happy to get your feedback because that's, as we think, the best way to improve the software. As we've tried to explain, it's sometimes not super easy to balance, as you see from the plethora of questions and different use cases that you might be confronted with. It's not super easy to always have the best solution that works for everyone. We're doing our best. We try to move things forward. And as I said, our main goal really is to provide the tool and you do the cool work with the historical material, and we can focus on building the best tools. So yeah, thanks again for joining. We will then also upload the recording of today's webinars to YouTube, as Helena has just put in the chat. So you can always rewatch it if you are interested in some specifics. We know there was a lot of content today, so we tried to cover most of the things. Maybe we have skipped some, but you might find those functionality then on beta. So yeah, thanks a lot everyone for joining. It was great having you and looking forward to see you at the next webinars. So happy transcribing and see you soon.